On a quiet night in July 2019, sailors aboard a U.S. Navy destroyer were carrying out what should have been a routine deployment off the coast of Southern California. The ship, the USS Russell, was operating within a designated military training range near San Diego, an area that sees constant activity from aircraft, drones, radar systems, and naval vessels. Nothing about the evening suggested it would later become one of the most discussed unidentified aerial phenomena cases of the modern era. Yet, during the course of normal operations, something unexpected appeared in the sky above the ship.
Your government now wants you to know one truth, and that truth is that UFOs are real. They've already done told you. Sometimes, when you want somebody to know a truth, it's so you can set them up to believe a lie. And that's coming. I have zero doubt that lie is coming.
Fighter squadrons, it's high pressure, high stakes jobs where you got to be dialed in. The people around you don't want to think that you're seeing things while you're flying, right? I essentially got into a mini dogfight with a UAP, and I'll never forget it.
Normalize people talking about it. You know, these things happen. You're an expert, trained witness, and this is what you saw.
Like this. It's moving like this. So there's nothing aerodynamic about this thing. And it reminded me of like Mario Brothers, like, hey, go through here to go to the next level. Like that's what it seemed like to me.
Yeah, UFOs are real. This is not a matter of opinion. This is not a matter of belief. It is a reality. The UFO presence on planet Earth is a reality. It's been a reality for a long time. Consensus reality is starting to mesh with actual reality, and that's what you're seeing in government and politics and everybody talking about it now. This is not a matter of belief. It's either true or it's not true. There are craft of unknown origin that are flying with impunity within our restricted airspace and being captured on film and all sorts of sensors. It's either true or not true. You tell me. You've been told by multiple governments on this planet, it is true.
Using night vision equipment, Navy personnel noticed a dark object hovering in the air. At first glance, it did not behave like any known aircraft. It did not follow a flight path, did not emit the familiar sounds of an engine, and did not display the navigation lights typically required for aircraft operating in controlled airspace. What immediately stood out was its shape. The object appeared triangular, almost pyramid-like, with sharply defined edges and lights blinking at irregular intervals. For several moments, it seemed to remain suspended in place, unmoving, as though unaffected by wind or gravity. The sailors observing the object were not casual witnesses. They were trained professionals accustomed to identifying aircraft, drones, and other airborne objects under challenging conditions. The equipment they used was designed specifically to enhance nighttime visibility, converting infrared and low-light signals into explicit imagery. This was not a blurry cell phone recording or a fleeting glimpse seen with the naked eye. The object was captured on military-grade night vision systems, providing a clearer record than most civilian sightings ever achieve. The footage recorded aboard the USS Russell did not become public immediately. Instead, it was stored and later included in an internal Office of Naval Intelligence briefing in May 2020. That briefing covered multiple encounters involving unexplained aerial objects observed by Navy ships and aircraft over a span of months. The material was intended for intelligence and defense officials, not public release. It was only later that the video reached documentary filmmaker Jeremy Corbell and veteran journalist George Knapp, both of whom have long-standing reputations for covering military encounters with unidentified phenomena. Before releasing the footage, Corbell and Knapp worked to confirm its authenticity and context. They verified that it had been recorded by Navy personnel during active operations and presented during official intelligence briefings. When the video was finally shared publicly, it quickly attracted attention not only because of its unusual appearance, but because the Pentagon confirmed it was real. A Department of Defense spokesperson stated that the images and videos were authentic and taken by U.S. Navy personnel. At the same time, the Pentagon declined to provide further details or an official explanation, citing the need to protect operational security. This response marked a significant departure from how similar reports were handled in previous decades. For much of the 20th century, UFO sightings were often dismissed outright or explained away as misidentifications without thorough public investigation. In this case, the government acknowledged the footage but did not explain what it showed. The object remained officially unidentified. The triangular or pyramid-like shape seen in the USS Russell footage became a focal point of discussion. Popular culture has long associated UFOs with disc-shaped craft, an image reinforced by decades of movies, television shows, and books. However, researchers who study historical UFO reports have noted that triangular objects are among the most frequently reported shapes, particularly from the late 20th century onward. Long before the USS Russell incident, witnesses across the United States and Europe described large, silent triangles hovering over highways, cities, and military installations. During the Cold War, such reports were often attributed to secret aircraft development. Governments on both sides of the Iron Curtain were experimenting with new designs, stealth technology, and unconventional flight systems. In that context, it was easy to assume that unusual shapes seen in the sky were classified military projects. Many of those early reports faded into obscurity, filed away without resolution. Yet the similarities between those older accounts and modern sightings are difficult to ignore. What separates the USS Russell incident from earlier stories is the level of documentation and official acknowledgement. The object was observed by trained military personnel, recorded using advanced equipment, and later confirmed as genuine by the Department of Defense. Another encounter occurred earlier in 2019, when a weapons systems officer aboard an FA-18 fighter jet photographed 3 separate objects while flying over Virginia. The images were later described during intelligence briefings using simple geometric terms: a sphere, an acorn-shaped object, and something resembling a metallic blimp. These photos were taken over roughly 20 minutes, suggesting that the objects persisted in the area long enough to be documented repeatedly. Taken together, these incidents form a pattern. Objects of varying shapes appear in military training areas, display behaviors that do not align with known aircraft, and then vanish without explanation. They are detected visually, tracked by sensors, and documented by personnel trained to observe and identify aerial threats. Yet despite extensive resources and expertise, no definitive conclusions are offered publicly. One aspect of these cases that often confuses is the terminology used by the government. In official communications, the term Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, UAP, has largely replaced UFO. This change is more than semantic. UFOs have become closely associated with extraterrestrial speculation, which can overshadow more grounded concerns like airspace safety and intelligence gathering. UAP, by contrast, is a neutral term that simply describes an object observed in the air that cannot be identified at the time. This shift in language reflects a broader change in attitude. In August 2020, the Pentagon formally announced the creation of the UAP Task Force. Its mission was to detect, analyze, and catalog unidentified aerial objects that could pose risks to military operations or national security. For the first time, military pilots were openly encouraged to report unusual encounters without fear of stigma or career consequences. This move acknowledged a reality long known within aviation circles. Unexplained objects were being seen more often than the public realized. Despite this more open approach, skepticism remains an essential part of the discussion. Some analysts argue that the pyramid-like shape seen in the USS Russell footage could be explained by optical effects related to night vision technology. Night vision systems amplify light and can distort point sources, sometimes producing geometric shapes that depend on the lens aperture design. According to this explanation, distant lights from aircraft or stars could appear triangular even if the objects themselves are not. Others suggest that advanced drone technology could account for some sightings. Modern drones can hover, move silently, and operate at night. Military and intelligence agencies around the world are constantly developing and testing new systems, some of which remain classified for years. From this perspective, unexplained objects in training ranges could represent human technology rather than something unknown. However, these explanations do not fully resolve the mystery. The consistency of certain behaviors, such as apparent hovering without visible propulsion and movement patterns that defy known aerodynamic limits, remains difficult to reconcile with existing technology. Additionally, the Pentagon has not identified these objects as U.S. assets or foreign systems, leaving their origin unresolved. The Canadian video that has circulated online showing a pyramid-shaped object hovering behind a building and appearing to release something from its underside fits uneasily into this landscape. On its own, the clip provides little concrete information. The location is vague, the date unconfirmed, and there is no accompanying radar data or independent verification. The object could be a balloon, a drone, debris, or an optical illusion. Without additional context, no firm conclusions can be drawn. Yet the video draws attention because it resembles elements seen in confirmed military footage. The shape, the hovering behavior, and the sense of uncertainty mirror aspects of the USS Russell and related cases. This does not make the civilian video evidence of anything extraordinary, but it explains why such clips resonate with viewers already aware of official UAP acknowledgements. The rapid spread of these videos on social media adds another layer of complexity. Platforms reward novelty and mystery, often amplifying speculation before verification. In this environment, incomplete information can quickly evolve into elaborate narratives. This makes careful analysis more important than ever, particularly when official statements are cautious and limited. Beyond questions of extraterrestrial life, these incidents raise broader issues about airspace security and transparency. What often gets lost when people focus on individual videos or single sightings is how frequently these encounters were happening during the late 2010s, particularly along the U.S. East and West coasts. Navy pilots later revealed that unidentified aerial objects were not rare anomalies, but recurring features of their training environment. Lieutenant Ryan Graves, a former FA-18 pilot, told Congress that his squadron encountered UAPs daily for at least 2 years while flying training missions off the Atlantic coast. According to Graves, these objects would appear on radar, sometimes remaining stationary at high altitude for hours, something conventional aircraft cannot do. Graves described one particularly concerning detail during sworn testimony. He said pilots observed objects that appeared inside restricted military airspace, sometimes at altitudes as high as 30,000 feet, and at other times descending to near sea level. He told lawmakers these objects did not have any visible means of propulsion. They would accelerate, decelerate, and change directions in ways that were beyond our technology. His concern was not about extraterrestrial origins, but about flight safety. He emphasized that near misses occurred, including one incident where a UAP passed between 2 fighter jets during a training exercise. Another well-documented witness is Commander David Fravor, who was involved in the 2004 encounter off the coast of California involving what became known as the Tic Tac object. Fravor has consistently stated that the object he observed exhibited performance characteristics exceeding known aircraft capabilities. What makes these statements particularly relevant to pyramid or triangle-shaped UAPs is the broader pattern they reveal. These objects are not just visually unusual. They are being detected across multiple sensor platforms. Radar, infrared, electro-optical systems, and visual observation often register the same targets. This multi-sensor confirmation is critical because it reduces the likelihood that sightings are due to simple equipment malfunctions or optical illusions. Internal Navy documents released through Freedom of Information requests show that many of these encounters were classified not as unknown aircraft, but as unidentified. That distinction matters. If analysts believed these objects were foreign drones or experimental U.S. technology, they would typically be categorized accordingly in internal systems. Instead, the persistent use of unidentified indicates that analysts could not confidently assign an origin. One particularly revealing detail emerged from reporting by The Debrief and Politico, which noted that some UAPs appeared to demonstrate transmedium capability. That means they could move seamlessly from air to water without slowing down or showing signs of structural stress. This capability was explicitly referenced in relation to the USS Omaha incident, where a spherical object was tracked descending into the ocean. A Navy report stated that the object splashed only in the sense that it entered the water, but there was no debris field and no visible impact disturbance. Jeremy Corbell later stated that sonar operators aboard nearby vessels attempted to track the object underwater, but lost contact. While Corbell is a polarizing figure, the Pentagon has not denied the underlying claim about sonar deployment. Instead, officials have declined to comment on the specifics of the sensor, again citing national security. Another layer of complexity involves the way these objects interact with radar systems. According to pilots and radar operators, some UAPs would appear intermittently, as if deliberately minimizing detection. Graves explained that radar systems were repeatedly recalibrated to rule out glitches, yet the objects persisted. "This wasn't a one-off," he said. "This was something we dealt with repeatedly." In 2021, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence released a preliminary assessment on UAPs covering 144 military encounters. Of those, only one was explained with high confidence. The rest remained unresolved. The report stated plainly that some UAPs appeared to demonstrate unusual flight characteristics, including the ability to remain stationary in high winds, move against prevailing wind patterns, and accelerate rapidly without visible propulsion. Notably, the report avoided speculation about extraterrestrial origins. Instead, it listed 5 possible categories: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena, foreign adversary systems, U.S. government or industry development programs, and an other category. The majority of cases fell into that final category due to insufficient data. This framing reinforces the idea that the mystery lies not in belief, but in data gaps. Former Pentagon official Luis Elizondo, who ran the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, has repeatedly emphasized that the issue should be approached as a matter of national security and scientific inquiry. In a recorded interview, Elizondo stated, "We are not saying it's aliens, we are saying that we don't know what it is, and that should concern us." He has also said that some of the observed technologies would require breakthroughs in materials science, energy generation, and propulsion that exceed publicly known capabilities. When it comes to triangular or pyramid-shaped UAPs specifically, analysts have noted that such shapes could offer structural advantages, including stability and reduced radar cross-section. However, no publicly acknowledged aircraft uses a rigid triangular pyramid design capable of hovering silently. Stealth aircraft like the B-2 bomber use triangular planforms, but they require runways, engines, and conventional flight dynamics. They cannot remain motionless in the air. Adding to the puzzle is the fact that similar triangle sightings have been reported globally. In Belgium, during a wave of sightings between 1989 and 1990, witnesses, including police officers, described large, silent triangular objects with lights at each corner. Radar tracking at the time confirmed the presence of unknown targets performing unusual maneuvers. Decades later, Belgian military officials admitted they were never able to identify the objects conclusively. More recently, reports from commercial airline pilots have added civilian corroboration. Pilots flying over the Pacific and Atlantic have reported seeing objects that appeared stationary at high altitude only to disappear suddenly. In FAA reports, pilots used language such as no transponder, unusual movement, and object not behaving like conventional traffic. While these reports do not confirm shape in every case, they reinforce the pattern of unexplained aerial activity. It is also worth noting how carefully government officials choose their words when addressing these incidents. Pentagon spokesperson Susan Gough has repeatedly confirmed the footage's authenticity, saying it shows the objects. This is not accidental. In intelligence and defense contexts, language is precise. Confirming authenticity means the data is real. Declining to identify means analysts lack sufficient evidence to reach a publicly stated conclusion. Former NASA Administrator Bill Nelson added another layer to the conversation when he said, during a 2022 interview, "We don't know what they are. We hope it's not an adversary here on Earth that has that kind of technology." His comment reflects a broader concern within defense circles. If these objects are human-made, their capabilities represent a serious technological leap. All of this context matters when evaluating any new footage, including civilian videos showing pyramid-shaped objects. While most such clips will likely have ordinary explanations, they exist within an environment where verified, unexplained encounters are already acknowledged. This makes it harder to dismiss every report outright, but it also makes scrutiny more necessary than ever. What stands out across all verified cases is not a single shape or video, but consistency in uncertainty. Multiple witnesses, multiple sensors, multiple incidents, and still no definitive answers. That alone separates modern UAP cases from earlier folklore. These are not stories passed down through rumor. They are documented encounters involving some of the world's most advanced surveillance systems. As analysts continue to examine these events, one conclusion is already clear. A lack of interest or effort does not sustain the mystery. It persists despite serious investigation. And that reality, more than any individual video, is what keeps the subject firmly in the realm of legitimate inquiry rather than speculation. Ultimately, the significance of these sightings may lie not in what they are, but in how we respond to them. Do we dismiss them because they are uncomfortable? Or do we study them carefully because they challenge our understanding? The Pentagon's cautious acknowledgement suggests a move toward the latter. The pyramid-shaped object remains unidentified. That simple fact is both unsettling and honest. It leaves room for investigation without closing the door on the possibility. And it ensures that, for now, the mystery remains part of our shared conversation about the skies above us and the limits of what we know. What was captured behind that building may never be fully explained, but one thing is clear. Questions like these are no longer fringe. If this intrigued you, share your thoughts below, like the video, and subscribe for more verified deep dives into real-world UAP mysteries.